Let me take you back, not to a place, but to a moment. When we look back at human history, we do not see a random sequence of events. We see decisive moments, moments that reshaped the way humanity lived, the way it thought, and the way it organized the world around it. At the heart of these moments stand two extraordinary civilizations, Babylon and ancient Egypt. These civilizations were not simply early states that appeared and disappeared with time. They represented two fundamentally different philosophies of existence, order, and human purpose. Egypt, rising along the banks of the Nile, embodied continuity, stability, and permanence. Its civilization was built on tradition, central authority, and the belief that life did not end with death, but continued far beyond it. Babylon, emerging in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, represented something very different. Analytical thought, legal structure, scientific observation, rational organization of society. The question explored in this presentation is not which civilization was more famous, nor which left behind larger monuments. Instead, it asks a deeper and more challenging question. Which of these two civilizations had the greater impact on shaping the human mind and the systems that govern the modern world today? Was greatness defined by architectural endurance and cultural continuity, as seen in Egypt? Or was it defined by intellectual innovation, by laws, mathematics, and scientific reasoning that continue to influence our daily lives, as seen in Babylon? Throughout the following segments, we will examine both civilizations across 10 essential dimensions: law, writing, science, mathematics, political stability, religion, architecture, administration, economic organization, cultural influence. This is not a competition driven by emotion or modern bias. It is a calm, balanced comparison grounded in historical evidence. And while the conclusion may surprise many, it reveals a fundamental truth about how civilizations truly shape humanity, not only through monuments, but through ideas. One of the clearest indicators of a civilization's maturity is its legal system. Law reflects how a society understands justice, responsibility, and social order. In this domain, Babylon introduced one of the most influential developments in the history of humankind. Babylon produced the earliest known comprehensive written legal code. The Code of Hammurabi was not a symbolic declaration or a moral guideline. It was a detailed system of enforceable laws that regulated civil life with remarkable precision. It addressed property rights, labor obligations, trade disputes, marriage and family relations, contracts, and criminal offenses. Most importantly, these laws were publicly displayed. This created a revolutionary idea that justice was based on written authority rather than personal power or individual interpretation. A key innovation of Babylonian law was its semi-secular nature. While divine legitimacy existed, the legal system itself functioned as a structured civic institution. In contrast, Egypt relied primarily on the principle of ma'at, a moral and cosmic order rooted in divine balance and religious harmony. Justice in Egypt was inseparable from religion, and legal authority flowed directly from the divine status of the pharaoh. In Egypt, judges acted as representatives of divine will. In Babylon, judges applied codified law. This distinction marks Babylon as the civilization that introduced the foundational concept of the rule of law, an idea that continues to define modern societies. Writing is far more than a means of communication. It is humanity's memory. Civilizations that mastered writing ensured the survival of their ideas across generations. Babylonian writing, known as cuneiform, was highly functional and practical in nature. It was used to record laws, scientific observations, economic transactions, commercial contracts, and administrative records. Knowledge in Babylon was systematically documented and preserved on clay tablets. This allowed ideas to accumulate, to be revised, and to evolve over time. Writing became a tool of governance, science, and intellectual progress. Egyptian writing, particularly hieroglyphics, followed a very different path. It was visually rich, symbolic, and deeply connected to religion and ritual. While aesthetically powerful, hieroglyphics were complex and time-consuming to write. This limited their use in everyday administration and scientific documentation. Although Egypt later developed simplified scripts, writing remained largely ceremonial and sacred in function. Its primary purpose was to preserve religious texts, royal achievements, and funerary inscriptions. The contrast is clear. Babylon used writing to analyze and organize reality. Egypt used writing to sanctify and immortalize it. Because of this difference, Babylon became a center for systematic knowledge accumulation, laying the groundwork for scientific and administrative traditions that later civilizations would inherit. Science begins when observation is combined with calculation. In this respect, Babylon stands as a pioneer of rational inquiry. Babylonian scholars closely observed the movement of celestial bodies and recorded their findings with remarkable precision. They did not merely describe astronomical events, they calculated patterns. They developed methods to predict eclipses, planetary movements, and seasonal cycles. This marked the emergence of astronomy as a mathematical science. One of Babylon's most enduring contributions is the division of time and space. The structure of the modern clock and the division of the circle into 360 degrees are direct inheritances from Babylonian astronomy. In Egypt, astronomy played an important but different role. Celestial observation was primarily religious and agricultural. The stars were used to determine festivals, rituals, and planting seasons. While this knowledge was sophisticated, it remained largely symbolic and practical rather than theoretical. The contrast is unmistakable. Babylon approached the heavens as a calculable system. Egypt approached them as a sacred realm. This scientific mindset allowed Babylonian knowledge to be transmitted to Greek scholars, who further developed these ideas and passed them on to later civilizations. Mathematics is one of the clearest indicators of a civilization's intellectual maturity. It reveals the ability to abstract, to organize, and to solve complex problems. In Babylon, mathematics was not merely a practical tool, it was an independent scientific discipline. The Babylonians developed the sexagesimal, or base 60, numerical system, a highly advanced structure that enabled precise calculations, particularly in astronomy and geometry. This system is the direct origin of dividing the hour into 60 minutes, the minute into 60 seconds, and the circle into 360 degrees. Babylonian clay tablets reveal solutions to algebraic equations, operations involving square roots, ratios, and problems resembling early trigonometry. This evidence reflects a deeply analytical mindset that exceeded immediate daily needs and moved toward theoretical reasoning. Egyptian mathematics, by contrast, was primarily practical in nature. It was used for land measurement after the Nile's floods, for architectural planning, taxation, and construction. While these tasks required considerable skill, Egyptian calculations relied largely on approximation and did not develop an abstract numerical system comparable to Babylon's. The difference lies not in intelligence, but in purpose. Babylon sought to understand numbers as a system in themselves. Egypt used numbers as tools to serve construction and administration. For this reason, Babylonian mathematics had a stronger influence on the later development of science. Mathematics is one of the clearest indicators of a civilization's intellectual maturity. It reveals the ability to abstract, to organize, and to solve complex problems. In Babylon, mathematics was not merely a practical tool, it was an independent scientific discipline. The Babylonians developed the sexagesimal, or base 60, numerical system, a highly advanced structure that enabled precise calculations, particularly in astronomy and geometry. This system is the direct origin of dividing the hour into 60 minutes, the minute into 60 seconds, and the circle into 360 degrees. Babylonian clay tablets reveal solutions to algebraic equations, operations involving square roots, ratios, and problems resembling early trigonometry. This evidence reflects a deeply analytical mindset that exceeded immediate daily needs and moved toward theoretical reasoning. Egyptian mathematics, by contrast, was primarily practical in nature. It was used for land measurement after the Nile's floods, for architectural planning, taxation, and construction. While these tasks required considerable skill, Egyptian calculations relied largely on approximation and did not develop an abstract numerical system comparable to Babylon's. The difference lies not in intelligence, but in purpose. Babylon sought to understand numbers as a system in themselves. Egypt used numbers as tools to serve construction and administration. For this reason, Babylonian mathematics had a stronger influence on the later development of science. The greatness of a civilization is not measured only by what it achieved in its own time. It is measured by what it passed on to those who came after. In this respect, Babylon's influence was especially profound. Babylonian laws, scientific methods, and administrative systems were transmitted to successive cultures in Mesopotamia, including the Assyrians and the Chaldeans. Later, these ideas passed to the Persian Empire. Through Persia, Babylonian intellectual traditions reached the Greek world, and from Greece, they were transmitted to Roman civilization and eventually to Europe. Babylonian astronomy formed the foundation upon which Greek scientific calculations were built. The concept of written law, civil contracts, documented trade, and regulated economic activity also originated in Babylonian practice. Egypt's influence, while powerful, took a different form. It was primarily symbolic, artistic, and spiritual. Egypt shaped religious thought, artistic expression, and ideas of the afterlife for centuries. In simple terms, Egypt shaped the human imagination. Babylon shaped the human mind and social order. When examining modern legal systems, scientific reasoning, and administrative structures, their intellectual roots align far more closely with Babylon than with Egypt. If there is one field in which Egypt clearly surpasses Babylon, it is architecture. Egyptian civilization transformed stone into a symbol of eternity, leaving behind monuments that still stand today after thousands of years. The pyramids are not merely royal tombs. They are highly sophisticated engineering achievements that required precise measurement, careful balance, and long-term planning on an unprecedented scale. Egyptian temples, such as Karnak and Luxor, reveal a deep understanding of space, symmetry, and symbolic alignment with religious belief and political authority. This architectural durability reflects a uniquely Egyptian philosophy, a philosophy centered on permanence, continuity, and the idea that structures should endure beyond the lifespan of their builders. Buildings in Egypt were not designed only for the living, they were designed for eternity. Babylonian architecture, while impressive in design and function, followed a different path. Babylonians relied primarily on mud brick rather than stone. As a result, many Babylonian structures deteriorated over time. Even monumental constructions such as the Ishtar Gate and royal palaces, though magnificent in their era, did not endure as Egyptian monuments did. This contrast is not simply a matter of engineering skill. It reflects a difference in intention. Egypt built to last for millennia. Babylon built to serve a dynamic, living society. Political stability plays a vital role in the long-term development of civilizations. It allows societies to plan for the future, to preserve institutions, and to accumulate experience across generations. In this regard, Egypt stands out as one of the most stable political systems in the ancient world. Egyptian governance was highly centralized, focused on the figure of the pharaoh. The pharaoh was regarded as a divine ruler, a living bridge between the gods and humanity. This religious legitimacy reinforced political authority and helped maintain unity across vast territories. Although dynasties changed, the core structure of the Egyptian state remained remarkably consistent for centuries. This continuity allowed economic management, religious institutions, and administrative systems to flourish with minimal disruption. Babylon, by contrast, experienced a far more turbulent political history. Control over the city shifted repeatedly among different powers, including the Akkadians, the Assyrians, and later, the Persians. These transitions often brought instability, despite Babylon's intellectual and scientific achievements. While political change allowed Babylon to absorb diverse cultural influences, it also limited its ability to maintain long-term state continuity comparable to Egypt. For sustained political stability and centralized governance, Egypt clearly holds the advantage. Religion in ancient civilizations was not merely a collection of rituals. It was a comprehensive framework for understanding life, death, and moral purpose. In this domain, Egypt developed one of the most elaborate spiritual systems in human history. The Egyptians possessed a deep and structured belief in the afterlife. Life on earth was seen as a temporary stage, leading toward eternal existence. This belief shaped daily ethics, funerary practices, mummification, and sacred texts such as the Book of the Dead. Moral behavior was directly connected to judgment in the afterlife, giving ethics a cosmic dimension. Babylonian religion, while complex, was more focused on life in the present world. Babylonian gods represented forces of nature, war, fertility, and fate. Religious practice aimed primarily at securing divine favor during earthly life, rather than preparing for eternity. This contrast reveals two different spiritual priorities. Egypt emphasized transcendence and moral continuity beyond death. Babylon emphasized harmony with divine forces within life itself. As a result, Egyptian spiritual concepts exerted a lasting influence on later religious and philosophical traditions. In modern popular culture, Egypt is often the first ancient civilization that comes to mind. Its monuments, symbols, and imagery, from pyramids to mummies, have become universal icons. Literature, cinema, art, and tourism have all reinforced Egypt's enduring presence in the global imagination. Its visual legacy continues to shape how humanity perceives ancient history. Babylon, despite its profound intellectual influence, remains far less visible. Its physical remains are fewer, and its achievements survive largely through ideas rather than imagery. Thus, Egypt endured through its symbols. Babylon endured through its systems. In terms of cultural visibility and symbolic presence, Egypt holds a clear advantage. In the end, Babylon and Egypt should not be viewed as rivals. They represent two complementary paths in humanity's journey. Each civilization addressed different questions about existence and offered different solutions to the challenges of human life. Egypt focused on continuity, identity, and eternity. It built in stone and preserved memory through monuments designed to last forever. Babylon focused on reason, law, and knowledge. It built systems that shaped human organization and intellectual structure. Without Egypt, humanity might not have learned the value of stability and cultural identity. Without Babylon, humanity might not possess the intellectual tools that organize the modern world. Yet when measuring practical influence on contemporary life, Babylon's contributions to law, mathematics, astronomy, and administration continue to operate silently within modern institutions. Egypt amazed the world with its greatness, but Babylon taught it how to think.